Teased back in 2018, Dragon Age Dreadwolf was a much better title than the Veilguard could ever hope to be. Since then, the gaming community has taken it upon itself to dispense that which it is most infamous for: hate. Those characters make Barney look mature. The gameplay sucks. Legally Blonde was less basic.
I haven't showered in 3 days and despise the smell of me. I'm going to hate on someone else so I can stop hating myself.
We were getting along so well. I was even going to name one of my children after you. The Grumpy One.
To be fair, the art style is quite... But the last time Dragon Age got that right, BioWare was making Mass Effect. Origins had a thing for roided breastplates, 2 was edgy in all the wrong ways, and Inquisition had me grinding for 50 hours before it deigned give me a decent armor set. It was Origins' Legion of the Dead.
What I'm saying is, our direction alone was never the reason we love Dragon Age.
And no, neither am I undermining the importance of art, nor am I missing the point. I'm not forgetting tone. In storytelling, tone is the overall mood of the piece. It can be funny and wholesome, it can be heroic and grand, it can be grim and dark. Thedas is a setting of nationalism and prejudice, of oppression and hatred, of betrayal and death. It is plenty grim and plenty dark, and Origins, with its end-of-the-world story grounded in its characters, had a dirty and muted art style to match, even if it never forgot to tell a joke from time to time.
Kitty! You're scaring me! I won't let you inside me! I won't!
Over the years, things changed. 2 had more jokes and a rushed development which aimed at badass, rather than grim, dark fantasy, yet one that, for all its faults, still maintained a solemn overarching mood, undeniable in the tragedy of the Hawks. These tonal changes in writing could also be seen reflected in the direction of art, with such examples as the redesign of Darkspawn or the mythical Witch of the Wilds. Meanwhile, Inquisition's take on the end of the world trope was a lot more hopeful, despite the godlike stakes. While Origins motivated its struggle by desperation, the Inquisitor could not escape the theme of hope plastered all over Skyhold, likely by Mother Giselle. Regardless how evil the choices made, the cloying chokehold of hope was as prevalent as Pandora's lost subtlety. Fittingly, the third game's entire colour palette is brighter, boasting with saturation and every possible green, not unlike what can be seen in the promotional material for its upcoming sequel. The point is not to get you hoping for a tonal shift back to its original roots. It is likely never to happen. It is not the point to invalidate a frustration stemming from a seed of nostalgia and regret. It is likely to be justified. The point is to remind you this shift is not new. Dragon Age has not been tonally the same at least since Inquisition, and if you found it possible to enjoy that, it is entirely possible you will also enjoy this sequel. I myself can't be entirely positive on this aspect because I believe the storytelling of Origins ranks golden chevrons above any of the rest, but there are 4 things I can be sure of. 1. Despite my preferences, I found many things to enjoy in the writing of Inquisition.
Beg that I succeed, for I have seen the throne of the gods, and it was empty.
2. A story spanning hours cannot be accurately judged in seconds, regardless how good or bad the trailer be. 3. Well executed, cartoonish art styles have never prohibited mature storytelling, even when more grounded visuals fit better. This is well executed. 4. As in sex, so in Dragon Age, there is no getting over your first.
Does anyone else feel the urge to vomit?
And if that is a reason you might be excited for the Veilguard, here is a reason you should be. It is June 11th, 2024. Dragon Age The Veilguard has its first official gameplay reveal, and honestly, it didn't look great. Fans criticised it for what seemed to be a mutilation of combat, with less options, less party members, and a lot more hacking and slashing. Although it is impossible to prove or disprove this before playing, BioWare has since revealed more footage taking place further into the game and, according to the video editor, avoiding spoilers. The worst thing about the video is it lies. There are spoilers in the very same introduction which tells you there are no spoilers. Thank you, whoever wrote that. You suck. Nice match cuts though. Besides the misstep, the gameplay revealed a surprising amount of tactical depth, especially in preparation for different combat encounters, encouraging versatility in build and party composition through enemy variety. Once again, you have to be realistic about these things. Dragon Age is never returning to full tactical combat, but this could be a great next step for its action tactical combat, and the two are not mutually exclusive.
When we set down to design the combat system for Origins, I think we were trying to modernize a classic.
Just as Origins was a blend between old and new at a transitional period in RPG history, Veilguard has reason to excite. For all the love I bear the first, Origins combat was less than perfect. Warriors stood in front and hit things, rogues stood at the back and hit things. Mages and the plethora of options were the only ones actually having any fun. The system rewarded slow, methodical approaches to fights and bringing more than one fireball. 2 tried for fast-paced, hard-hitting combat with flashy abilities to feed the power fantasy. It wanted you to say, "Look at me and my giant, grooved, bulging stick of satisfying destruction." In that, it succeeded. Where it failed was in maintaining initial interest, giant sticks dulled by narrowed options, and the mindless padding of horde mode to every encounter, making tactical thinking as irrelevant as AoEs were imperative. And Inquisition, it's hard for me to talk fairly about Inquisition. Gameplay wise, although the fault lies with its pseudo MMO mechanics, I was bored before I left the hinterlands. The dragon fights were awesome though. I seem to remember have a tank taunt, the rest with damage haunt. So, why do I think Veilguard could improve any of these systems? We start the showcase in the inventory. Passive abilities don't make games more fun, active ones you have to engage with do. From what was shown, your character is equipped with 7 actives, 4 are learnt abilities, 3 equipped runes. For now, the limitation seems to be balanced by enemy resistances. Darkspawn, it seems, are weak to fire, so the build prepared favours this damage type. Other enemy groups, such as the undead, have different resistances and vulnerabilities. This system could add dynamism to every playstyle beyond any of the first games, ensuring a different flow to combat enabled by your switching abilities in accordance with the changing threats. In addition, companions will have different builds suited better to this or that enemy faction, making party composition a tactical choice just as it was in previous games. Dodge, jump, attack, parry and block. 5 additional actions are added to our options, raising the count to 12 without their combinations. Meanwhile, some passives also get a need change, a conditional activation clause. In this case, Flaming Weapons, which was equipped earlier, triggers only with a successful parry, encouraging the player to adapt their playstyle and get good for the Darkspawn slaying buff. After Origins, terrain became scarcely relevant in combat. Here, it becomes a part of your approach, with ranged enemies perched above and AoEs demanding care in positioning, a cool combination of Inquisition's area of effect attacks and Origin's demand for spatial awareness, even if nothing here yet resembles the original's nightmarish corridors and choke points. Our 13th active input joins the chaos soon after, when the same armor barriers from Inquisition are reintroduced. Heavy attacks are most effective at breaking them, implying the existence of light attacks as well. At this point, you may have noticed the lavender bars above the usual red enemy health ones. These are stagger bars, entirely new to the franchise, even if we all know who they are borrowed from. After filling them, the target takes bonus damage and becomes vulnerable to special takedowns. Another active input, 14th, to keep track of and strategize for. And all of this not counting the 6 other active abilities of your companions, all of which you control. So far we've seen 4 different Darkspawn types, many squishy enough to allow players the time to plan the best approach against their combined abilities. The environment can be interacted with more than ever before. Primus and Detonators have the classic Dragon Age spell combinations return, and let's not forget about character progression, with interesting new concepts to avoid gear obsolescence via workshop upgrades and every single item gaining the capacity for rarity and level updates. These are great innovations for this series and all RPGs besides. However, I must confess, as you have likely gathered, I prefer action combat. I must also confess, I hate how the upward trend of aloof negativity is taking over the internet, making the lazy prophets and sinful the optimist. Keeping those considerations in mind, let us agree that never has action combat looked this good in a Dragon Age game. Never have there been so many exciting innovations in one game since Origins, and never has a Pride Demon looked this goofy. Whether this ends up helping or hindering the story, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, all these gameplay changes are reason enough for me to dare be a smidge excited about Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
And I think what we resulted in is something you just have to think of as like sword porn. It's for the enthusiasts.